Welcome to the GoldenEdge podcast. Today I'm joined by Blade Runner, who's the global moderator for GoldenEdge Gaming, and he's behind about 95% of what you see on the homepage. So he works pretty hard over there, and that's much appreciated. So thanks for joining me today, Blade Runner.
Yeah, no problem, JMM.
So it's been a pretty busy week with everything E3, and you've been pretty busy updating the website.
Yeah, real busy.
I have a feeling that most of what we're going to talk about is aimed at Microsoft in the podcast. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, probably. Probably the biggest surprises. Well, almost the biggest surprises. Big changes coming from Microsoft.
It's definitely been their best E3 since they launched Xbox One, really.
Yeah, really. They're kind of doing an almost soft reboot of the Xbox One.
You know, for me, I think actually probably the best thing that Microsoft have done at E3 this year was to not mention television once. It's like it's been all about games this time round.
Yeah, coming in, they said they were going to focus on the games, and they focused on the games. Yeah. It was pretty much non-stop games.
I suppose we should probably talk a bit about Sony first, because I have more things to say about Microsoft, but what from Sony what impressed you the most from them?
I'm seeing a lot of people kind of giving Sony the E3 win, if you will, from things like the Final Fantasy VII remake and Shenmue III and everything. Last Guardians is finally out of the development purgatory it was in, and I mean, I think they've really set themselves up for the future, but it's kind of the far off future. I think 2016 is definitely going to be a big year for PlayStation 4, but 2015 they're looking like they're really relying on the third party support.
I haven't actually seen release dates, so is that where most of, say, Final Fantasy and Shenmue, are they mostly predicted for 2016 then?
Absolutely. Considering Shenmue is sitting on a Kickstarter funding, they probably haven't even started.
See, I thought the Kickstarter funding was for like a movie, like the making of, rather than the actual game itself. I mean, maybe I misread that.
I'm pretty sure it's for the game itself. Pretty much, right. Sony's just advertising that.
It's actually funny how it's. I mean, it was originally a Sega game. I don't know if is Sega still behind it, or is it just going to be Sony's all the way, or.
I'm not sure. I think probably the studio that's making it is going to partner with Sony. I kind of doubt Sega's going to have anything to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised after what happened with Shenmue 2, and I mean, funny, I did read an article how the 2 million mark is just not even close to enough to fund that game, or to fund like a proper AAA Shenmue, because it practically bankrupted Sega and the Dreamcast, because they spent an amazing amount of money on it, but it just didn't sell enough copies.
I'm sure it probably already has made more than that. Yeah, it's close to 4 million now.
You're right. And well, I think it was the creator or someone along the line said that they're going to need 10 million at least to make a proper Shenmue game.
Well, they have 25 days to go, and it's not going to be a problem. 25 days from the time we're recording this.
What's their target though?
2 million, and it's at 3,500,000 as we.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. We're being really pessimistic here. I mean, it's fantastic news that we're getting a new Shenmue. I just worry that it's not going to be enough, and I'd rather they asked for more, had a higher benchmark, and we got like a perfect new game rather than just a cheap knockoff version or something.
I doubt that's going to happen. The fact that Sony spent their valuable E3 time talking about this means that Sony is going to cover the difference.
I hope so,
for sure. They weren't announcing a Shenmue 3 Kickstarter as much as they were just announcing Shenmue 3.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I thought it was something
happening.
to do with a movie, a making of or something, but I mean, maybe I misread that. I mean, it's kind of cool. I mean, I like how Kickstarter is doing all this, but at the same time, I'm kind of, it almost seems as though they don't have faith in it to fund it themselves. Either that, or they're just being cautious
It,
after what happened to Sega.
I think it's a money saver more than
Mm,
anything. I think they know that. Um, I think they're taking a risk, and it's a risk that like I said before, they'll probably pay the
yeah.
difference of that
Hmm.
risk. But they're taking a risk in saying that because it's in such high demand, why not just let
Yeah.
the people that are
Yeah.
demanding it pay for it?
It's a good idea. I
So,
mean, absolutely. I mean, let's say not that Valve need any money at all, but if Valve said, "We'll kickstart Half-Life 3," I would be paying full whack for that, no problem. So,
oh yeah, I'm sure Half-Life 3 on Kickstarter would break
yeah,
records.
like Valve need the money as well. Let's talk about the Rare Replay, because that's pretty much I think for me anyway, I think that was the most exciting thing. I don't know about you.
That was huge. That was a big deal.
I can't believe that. I mean, I've said for a long time that I've always wanted Perfect Dark on a disc, a physical, actual disc. And I will be honest, I had been saying that for years, and I never thought it would actually ever happen, especially after I heard that the Xbox One wasn't backward compatible and all that sort of stuff. So I really am quite in shock about it.
Yeah, really, but I always assumed that because there is no backwards compatibility, I don't think they would let an IP like Perfect Dark or Banjo-Kazooie just sit. I always assumed that we would get some kind of compilation disc that would probably have the Xbox Live Arcade versions of these games. But I wasn't
I
expecting.
didn't.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I honestly didn't, because I thought, like, although they're rare games, I thought that Nintendo would somehow try their best to hold off, or like try and release it on the Nintendo Wii U or something. But I guess Rare have all the rights, so that's worked out quite well.
The bigger surprise was that it's $30 for 30 games,
Oh
and a
yeah,
lot of these games are clearly worth more than $1.
yeah. I think I actually wouldn't mind pointing out something about that. I think it's Microsoft, if they wanted to, could have drip fed us these games, and there are quite a few on the list that I probably would have paid a lot, like maybe $10 just to have. I mean, it's obvious we're going to come to the Conquer Bad Fur Day analogy of you could spend £80 on that on eBay, whereas you can just buy it on this disc, which is pretty good.
A lot of these games, a lot of the games on Rare Replay, they just aren't available anymore. A lot of these games have been stuck on NES cartridges
Hmm.
for the better part of 25 years, and it's really exciting to be able to get to go back and play, RC Pro Am and Cobra Triangle and just all these old games that I remember playing as a kid, and just like I feel like I'm getting a part of old Nintendo back that
Yeah,
Nintendo doesn't have the rights to. But Rare was a big second party to Nintendo for years, and the fact that we're getting a huge chunk of what made the N64 so great,
right.
and a pretty sizable chunk of what made the original NES so great.
Yeah, it almost felt like Nintendo were actually at E3 this year with the Rare Replay.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. It feels like Nintendo came out and announced a new virtual console, and
Hmm.
but it's on Xbox.
When I was going back and deciding which Nintendo 64 game to do for my relive video, it was definitely a choice between Blast Corps and Body Harvest. And although I didn't let anyone know what the choice was, I just said, "What console would you like me to make a video on?" So no one actually knew what the other choice was. But I had comments from people saying, "Hey, did you ever play Blast Corps?" And I can see why they've made the analogy there, because they're both kind of open world sandbox games where you get to drive different vehicles. And in a way, like, I kind of thought, oh damn, I should have made a Blast Corps video, because it would have been quite current. But at the same time now, it gives me the opportunity to do that on my Xbox One when I get it. So I'm quite glad I didn't actually do that.
Yeah, you could definitely maybe make some comparisons, but
Hmm.
I Blast Corps is probably going to have borders on each side of the
Yeah,
screen.
so
So
you actually know someone from Rare, so you've got some information about that.
I do through my wife, who has been pen pals with this person um, for years, for since before I've known her.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, there's a guy that he just got a job over there at Rare. He's working on Sea of Thieves right now,
Oh, lovely.
and he can he can answer a few questions,
Mhm.
but Rare Replay wasn't really his baby, so
Right. I think they should have. It would have been good if they got what are they, 4J Studios, the people that were behind
yeah.
porting Xbox. I would really like to have got them to do that and like. But then I mean I'm only saying that I haven't seen it. So, but what you're saying is that so the games won't actually be in HD like Blast Corps, for example. It'll just have a
Um,
border and it'll be.
yeah,
Um,
games like Blast Corps and Conker's Bad Fur Day, they're going to have borders,
mhm.
stylized borders on each side of the screen.
Yeah.
But games like Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, Perfect Dark, anything that came out on the Xbox Live Arcade, those versions are going to come over. They're pretty
Yeah.
much going to they're going to act like backwards compatibility, and this includes Viva Pinata, Perfect Dark Zero, games like that. They're
Mhm.
going to act like backwards compatibility. Um, so it's likely you'll also be able to bring your save file from Perfect Dark on the
Right.
Xbox 360 and actually play that
Right.
save file on Rare Replay.
Yeah, because I'm just now that I'm thinking about it, there was a Hitman HD collection released for the Xbox 360, and part of the HD collection you actually got Hitman Blood Money, but Blood Money was actually already released on the Xbox 360 right at the start. So basically, what they did was they just bundled an extra disc in along with the collection, and you just got Blood Money. So I kind of, whenever I got the collection, this was maybe about 3 years, 4 years after I originally played Blood Money. So I thought, well, this is great, so I'm going to get to replay that. And when I stuck the game in, I thought, like, I'll just have a whole new go at it. But all the achievements were unlocked and all the game saves were there, so it was just literally a disc that had the exact same. So maybe it'll work the same as that.
Yeah, there might be some achievements, some new achievements,
I hope
but
so. I mean, I hope to just go back and redo all the achievements actually, like second time round, and just I really hope the Crown and Glory's still there, and I really hope to make some videos on that. So I think it would be a shame to change the achievements or to change anything of it. Actually, I just hope it's exactly what we got on the Xbox Live Arcade.
I'm pretty sure it will.
Mhm.
And I'm pretty sure with your gamer tag, your achievements come over with it, and your save game can too now. So I think probably with the snapshots, which are these little challenges in Rare Replay,
Mhm.
those might be linked to some new achievements for Perfect Dark and Banjo and the like.
Yeah. Well, I think even though it's not going to be HD, some of these games, I do think they're going to be made for HD TVs, and for that reason, I think they'll be clearer than what you would see them on your Nintendo 64. So, and it's kind of nice to retain how they originally looked anyway, because um, I at first I wasn't sure if we were getting the Conquer Bad Fur Day on the Xbox 360 and that was originally on the original Xbox, or we were getting the Nintendo 64 version. And it's nice to get the Nintendo 64 version because of what I've said. It's really expensive to try and get that on the Nintendo 64 itself.
Plus, it's not edited.
How do you mean?
The the Conquer Live and Reloaded,
Oh,
it
okay,
was
right.
edited.
Oh, okay. So
Um,
like, yeah, they bleeped out swear words and stuff.
yep, they bleeped it out.
Oh, right. Okay, I didn't know that.
So yeah, really. So what did you think of the VR headset that Microsoft showed off?
The Hololens.
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought the demo was pretty cool. I can't see how it's going to apply to anything other than Minecraft though, but I mean, I can see how in Minecraft it works very well.
it feels like a distraction. Like slower paced games, I think that could really work well with creative games like Minecraft. But like I could never see how that could translate into something fast paced, like Halo or Call of Duty, or something that
Yeah.
requires spot on like precision and quick reflexes.
Yeah, I mean, I could see how it could be used as an aid to something else. I mean, it could spawn its own genre of games altogether. I don't know, but maybe so. For example, if you're playing Call of Duty, maybe it could display the map. But I mean, like I say, all I know that it could actually do is just as an aid to what you're doing on the TV or something.
I've heard
But
as far as hardcore games are concerned, um, they're really good for survival horror stuff, or maybe just horror in general, maybe not so much survival.
hmm for the Hololens itself, or
Just the all the VR tech, they're
right?
showing a lot of jump scare stuff and just stuff where you walk around inside of a house and you have to interact with
Yeah. So
things and creepy stuff.
I mean, that's probably more talking about the Oculus Rift.
Yeah,
Um,
but I mean, I
I don't know. I don't know how the two compare. I don't know how Oculus Rift compares with. I think the Hololens is just
yeah, that kind of
being able to just.
projects onto your environment as opposed to giving you an actual environment in a game.
Yeah, maybe I'm just not using my imagination enough. Maybe you could display the HUD like all around the room, and then that leaves the TV completely free of any HUD. That might be pretty cool, especially for people watching it, or maybe if you're recording gameplay footage.
I think there can be a 3D effect implemented where like
Mhm.
imagine have you ever seen The Ring?
Yeah.
Imagine if the HoloLens had the girl come out of the
Right.
screen. Because the
Mm.
HoloLens could do that for you
Yeah.
and kind of have that sort of thing happen. That's just one example of how it can kind of blur the lines between what you're seeing on screen in a traditional video game and then what the
Mhm.
HoloLens can do.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's nice that the technology is there, and it's going to be long term for Microsoft. There will be things on it, I think. I don't think it's going to be totally gimmicky, but I mean, I could see how. So, have you watched the 40-minute gameplay of Metal Gear Solid?
Yes, I have.
Well, I can imagine there's a little map on that, and I can imagine how that little map could be displayed on the HoloLens. So I think things like that could work, but
It could. It's going to require a lot of developers to think outside the box. It's really easy. It's really easy to just think of like a heads-up display or a menu, and I think it's going to require a lot of effort on the developer's part to plan out what's going to feed through the lens versus what's going to feed through your TV, which is why the HoloLens as a concept might be fatally flawed in that sense.
yeah, it's only as good as the developers make
Yeah,
it good.
because everybody else is focusing on Oculus Rift like full virtual reality, and the HoloLens is somewhere in between. And I'm not sure if people want to derive from that.
I can't imagine a developer designing a game solely for the HoloLens other than maybe like kids games or some kind of gimmicky game. But there's no point in speculating, I suppose.
Yeah, not at this point at least.
But I think going back to Metal Gear, the fact that they have shown a 40-minute gameplay demo shows that they must have a lot of faith in it. And I mean, I personally think this Metal Gear is history in the making, and I think it would be a shame to miss out on
It's
it.
it's I said something like this on goldenedgegaming.com, but basically every time I get excited over a new game, whether it be
I know.
Witcher 3 or Fallout 4, a Metal Gear keeps coming back and stealing my attention because
Mm,
it's just that level of deep. But it's
yeah,
not deep like Fallout 4, an RPG that would could just suck hours of time away with endless amount of options. It's it's
yeah.
it's ex-
It's the characters and stuff,
it
I
comes
think, and the
off yes,
story.
it comes off extremely accessible, but
Yeah,
almost infinitely deep, if that makes
yeah.
sense.
I think it's the characters, the story, and the history of the whole series. It almost feels like it's Hideo wrapping everything up and pulling it all together. So,
Yeah, really. If this he says this is his swan song, and if that's the case, then
hmm
then this is going to be a treat.
yeah, I mean, I've been following him on Twitter, and you can tell that he has a lot of love for it. So I don't think he would be saying what he's saying if he didn't think that it was good. And he did say that he may remake Metal Gear 1, but if he does it, it's not going to be just a graphical remake, it's going to be an entire remake. But I don't know how that's even going to work if he's even still employed by Konami, or what's going to happen there, but that would be incredible, I think.
Yeah, he has expressed interest in Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 and remaking them completely in the Fox engine, which would
Yeah.
include free roaming and everything.
I think the cool thing actually is that Metal Gear 2 took place on a big shell, which is more or less what your base is in the new one. So he probably has a lot of assets he could reuse. But I really did like Metal Gear 2, and I would be really interested to see how it would be remade, because I think it was close to perfect. I mean, we've got a Metal Gear 1 remake, but it'd be interesting to see what he changes, because it sounds like if he does do it, it's going to change everything. It's not going to be the same.
Yeah, really. I have complete faith in Kojima. I mean, he's been doing this for 30 years. He hasn't let us down yet.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Two other games. I think the other one for me, I'm really excited about is Gears of War, but not the new one as much as the remake of the first one, because I played it a lot when I first got my Xbox 360. It's it's actually a really good single player co-op game, and it's also a really competitive online game. So I'm interested to see how that goes, and I like a lot of what I see. The interesting thing is I'm buying an Xbox One for the first time, and the three games I'm excited to play, or I'm looking forward to play, is the Rare Replay Collection, Gears of War 1 remake on the from the Xbox 360, and I'll probably end up getting the Halo pack so I can play Halo 2 online. So pretty much the games I'm playing are games I've already played on the Xbox 360, which is a bit funny. But I'm happy to do that. I'm happy just to play these again, because they're I'm happy just to relive them again.
yeah, well, that's the beauty in it, is that these games are getting remade, and you're able to play them in ways you couldn't before, or haven't in a long time, online and that sort of thing.
Microsoft are pretty much giving me what I want, and so that's good, finally.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think they're giving everybody what they want. I mean, year after year, you hear, like, you're watching an E3 press conference, and they say, "We've listened to the fans, and by popular demand, this is what we're giving you." And
Yeah.
it's absolutely nothing like what you were asking.
Yeah.
It's just some, off the cuff thing, feature that nobody
I've
asked
always
for.
found, I mean, especially when they launched Xbox One, it's not we're giving you what you want, it's we're telling you what you want. And if you don't like that, you better start liking it, because this is all you're getting. And they had such an arrogance about them when they launched the Xbox One, and especially that interview that pretty much went viral. And the guy really did a good job, where he said, so what your message is, that if people don't want an always online console, they should buy an Xbox 360. And the arrogance of the guy from Microsoft was basically just to say, yes, if you want an offline console, buy the Xbox 360, which is just the wrong message to send out on an E3.
Yeah, and I mean, Microsoft have gone from. I bought an Xbox One roughly 9 months ago, and I went from the feeling in 24 hours. I went from the feeling of being regretful for buying this console to absolutely loving the fact that I have bought this console.
It's just a shame they didn't do it 2 years ago, really.
Yeah, that they should have done it right off the bat. But the fact that they're, like I said earlier in the podcast, that they are soft rebooting this console. By the end of the year, we're going to have a new controller. The interface is going to be different. Backwards compatibility. It's becoming the console it should have been 2 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know. I heard a new feature is whenever the Windows 10 launches, you're actually going to be able to stream what's on your Xbox One to your Windows 10 PC. which I'm actually pretty excited about.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I mean, yeah, there seems to be a lot of stuff coming. I mean, hopefully Windows 10 makes it run a little better. I don't know if you've heard any of these rumors that the frame rate issues are happening with backwards compatibility.
I have heard frame rate issues have popped up,
Hmm.
but it's nothing too noticeable. It's if something's at 30 frames per second, when it dips to 28 frames per second in on the 360 version,
Yeah.
it can dip as low as 24 frames
Hmm.
on the Xbox One version. But
Yeah.
the flip side of that is it's we're seeing faster load times. Texture load times are cut in half if they're present at all, and we're getting full frames now instead of
Hmm.
some screen tearing issues that are present in like Mass Effect.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll be honest. My Xbox 360 at the minute, I don't know why it's doing it. Maybe it's just becoming sort of close to the end of its shelf life, or I don't know. But it's going really bad frames per second on some games, and games that it shouldn't be. It's really slow. So um, I think it can only improve. I mean, technically, it hasn't officially launched its backward compatibility. It's just a preview, is it not? Or maybe
Yeah,
some games have.
people in the Xbox Live preview program
I mean, it
have
can only
access.
it can only improve, and I think when they release Windows 10, we may notice a big difference. I think there's probably just a pile of crap on there that shouldn't be, and the fact that when you think of the Xbox 360's backward compatibility with the Xbox One, you couldn't access whenever you played old games. You couldn't talk to your friends. You couldn't even press the guide button. There wasn't really anything there. But with the Xbox One's backward compatibility, you can still chat with friends and you can still do all sorts of things. So
It looks like they've put a lot of effort into this backwards compatibility to not only make it a free service or a free feature, I should say, but they've put a lot into it to make sure you're not losing anything by migrating from the 360 to the Xbox One.
yeah, I mean it shows that there's room to move as well because if if you didn't have that friends list and middle button and sort of other stuff going on in the background, it shows that there's other things that can be turned off if worst case scenario and they find that games aren't running properly. I'm sure there's things that can be done to improve that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what were your thoughts on Nintendo?
I don't actually really have any thoughts on Nintendo. Were they at E3 this year?
Yeah, they were. They did this little Nintendo Direct thing on the third
Okay.
day, Wednesday, I think. Might have been Tuesday
I didn't
actually.
see any of that.
Yeah, there wasn't much to see really. They pretty much talked um, about Skylanders and a new Zelda game, a new kind of a three-person Four Swords, I guess
Okay.
you could call it on.
Three swords?
Yeah, Three Swords. It's called Tri-Force Heroes. Tri being
Mm-hmm.
the Tri-Force.
And
Um,
I think I did actually see some. Was it on the 3DS though?
yeah, it is.
Right, yeah,
Um,
did see that.
it doesn't look too impressive. It looks like more Zelda. It looks like
Mm.
Zelda for the sake of Zelda. But
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I mean, really not a whole lot of new stuff. They talked about pretty much they showed Mario Maker, which was probably the highlight
Oh
of the
yeah.
show.
I mean, they announced that a long time ago, though. I've heard of that months ago.
They announced that last year at E3.
Wow.
Yeah, and basically they're piggybacking Mario Maker onto the 30th anniversary of Mario, and that's probably the most impressive thing they showed, which really isn't much different than what we saw last year. Pretty much, Nintendo has put themselves in a position that every high-profile Nintendo game is quality because it has to be quality.
Yeah.
That it you never get a half-finished game from Nintendo, but it's hit or miss whether it's going to be really good. Just because it looks good and sounds good and plays good doesn't mean it's really all
It's
that
got the
impressive.
charm
Or
that the old games had.
yeah, really. And the fact, I was really hoping for maybe a Wii U price drop or something to instill a little faith in the, you know, especially people of our generation, people in their mid to late 20s. Nintendo has kind of alienated us to an
Mm-hmm.
extent. I mean, they're really going after children at this point, the kind of Skylanders crowd of people who
Yeah.
and with everything they showed here at E3, they almost everything they showed, they had an amiibo to sell with it, which um, I'm aware that not everybody knows what amiibos are, but they're basically these toys with microchips in the bases of them, like little statues of Mario or Zelda or Pikachu or anything like that, and you stick them on your controller, and your controller reads it, and then that unlocks some little piece of content within the game.
Right.
Um, and they're
Yeah,
like,
that doesn't excite me at all.
yeah, and they're about $15 a piece, and I hear more about amiibos than I do actual Nintendo games anymore.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it seems as if our generation are actually Nintendo or Xbox One's actually catering to us more than Nintendo are.
yeah, any more it feels like that, and especially with things like Rare Replay, just because
Exactly.
there's no better way to cater to a generation than to just give them exactly
Well, I mean,
what's
when you
there.
think about it, Nintendo, if they really wanted to, could have announced um, a launch of GoldenEye 007 on their virtual console. Because technically, or maybe they don't have, is it between them and Activision or something? The rights are
No,
shared, or are they fully Nintendo's now?
I try to keep up with this, and
It's really
Activision's
confusing.
Activision's publishing rights of the Bond license, as far as I know, have expired as of
Right.
as of March, I think.
Hmm.
They're expired, so the Bond license is sitting out there someplace for
So if
somebody else to
Nintendo
buy.
wanted, Nintendo could buy it and then they could release.
Um, Probably, but I don't know if Rare and I mean Microsoft owning Rare, if Microsoft has rights to the gameplay.
Hmm.
So if Microsoft gave up those rights, then with Nintendo having the legal ability to publish James Bond games, they could release
Hmm.
GoldenEye.
Well, regardless, anyway, they didn't. So Nintendo didn't show anything for a more mature gamer than at their E3,
Um,
their version of E3.
yeah, Nintendo always likes to sit on those big names like Star Fox and Donkey Kong and Zelda
Mm-hmm.
and Mario and Metroid. They brought out a Metroid game for the 3DS that looks nothing like. I guess it's supposed to be kind of like, oh crap, is that for the 3DS or is it for the Wii U? I don't know. Well, okay. Well, they brought out a Metroid game that that looks kind of like it should be like a Metroid Prime sequel, but
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't look or play anything like that.
Hmm.
I mean, it's like it's a different shooter with a Metroid skin, I suppose.
Hmm.
Um,
So they didn't say anything about a new Zelda for the Wii U yet,
no,
or
they
because they
said
announced that was last E3 as well. I think the first trailer came out.
yeah, and they said nothing about it. They showed the
It's
first
crazy.
trailer at E3, and then this last winter, they showed some gameplay, and that's all we've seen from it.
Yeah, they're a strange company, and I think they are very secretive about what they do, and I worry that they are too secretive to the point where they alienate people that want to know information about new games coming out. I remember, I think it was Twilight Princess. I mean, you said at the start that they spend a lot of time on their games and they only launch when they know they're right. But they delayed Twilight Princess to the point where I just lost interest in it. Like it delayed for years.
Yeah,
I think the reason for the delay was because they more or less had it finished, but then they wanted to do a dual launch between the Wii and the GameCube, and they made the reason that the long delay was because they were integrating the Wii controls with it,
yeah.
and by the time it came to it, I had just moved on. I think my GameCube had been packed away, and I wasn't willing to buy a Wii for it, and I lost interest. So there's a worry that you can delay something for too long.
Yeah, really. And I mean, I'll go off on a tangent on Nintendo in general. and that I just don't know what they're doing anymore. I was one of those kids that bought a GameCube over an Xbox or a PlayStation 2, and I stood by them for years. And now looking back on it, and especially with a game like Rare Replay coming out, I feel like
Hmm.
I was buying Mario, I was buying Zelda, and I was buying Rare games when I was
Yeah.
buying a Nintendo console. And now that
Yeah.
Rare isn't
Right.
there, it's just Mario and Zelda, and the fact that Zelda is gets delayed and gets pushed, and they say it would be out in 2015, and now it's probably going to be late 2016, and the console is still $350 where I'm at.
Yeah. I think. I mean, I have a Wii U, but it's gathering dust, and I think if I'm probably more excited by the 3DS than the Wii U at the minute because it has so many classic Zelda games, and again, it's just going back to rebuying games I've already played. But I don't know why, but they seem. I guess it's because you know what you're getting with it,
Yeah,
and it's the same with Gears of War One, the remake of it. I know that multiplayer with the back of my hand, and I know that it's balanced, and I would far rather go out and spend, I think it's like £40 to £50 on that than risk buying a new game that I won't like or enjoy online. So
that's
I
usually.
think there's safety in buying something that you've already played, and it's nice to relive it
Yeah,
as
really.
well.
That safety is usually what drives me to buy a console, and everything else is kind of a happy accident where I discover a new game because it was so highly rated or it sold a lot, and I
Hmm.
pick it up because everybody else is playing it, and I end up really liking it. I mean, I didn't know anything about Fallout until Fallout 3 came out, and I didn't buy an
Yeah,
Xbox for
exactly.
Fallout.
Well, I mean, I always said that until Xbox One gets backwards compatibility, not always online, and a Connect, you don't have to buy a Connect. I mean, I probably eventually would have caved in and bought one, but finally we have all those things. So
If I bought a Wii U tomorrow, it would be for probably Super Mario 3D World and Zelda Wind Waker, and that's $350 for two games, and everything else is his hit or miss at best.
yeah, I can tell you now that's what I've done, and it's not worth it. I probably should have just got an Xbox One back then, but I mean, I probably wouldn't have done much with it until now either.
Yeah, I mean, I see um, a lot of people I know who are playing The Witcher 3 right now, who
Hmm.
who in years past wouldn't have touched The Witcher 3, but there's just no games on the
Yeah,
console.
there's nothing else to play. Yeah,
There's nothing else to
but
play.
that I really do think that'll change with the release of Metal Gear, Gears of War, Halo. I don't know,
Halo
the Halo
5.
5 maybe.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things coming out for both the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One that are going to put Nintendo in a position where they need to realize that it's about the games, and it's about more than just what the kids want. I mean, they can make money selling little statuettes and Mario and Zelda games.
But they won't make it off us.
Yeah, but it's not going to be off of us. I'm sure there's some kid sitting there with a Wii U right now playing Smash Brothers and Mario Kart, and that's his golden age of gaming. And
Hmm.
but Nintendo's more interested in selling toys at this point, and it short produces everything to make the rarity of things drive the prices rather than the quality of things. And that just creates a rift between gamers that it separates the I guess man child, if you will, from the real gamer. There are people or guys out there, guys, girls, everybody out there who are buying everything Nintendo shovels out because they're starved for good games, and all they have is a Wii U. And
Yeah, I
uh,
mean, I guess there's also the sort of mom and dad market. You know, there's kids that see this and they see their friends have it, and I'm talking,
yeah, but that
you
but
know,
that's
really young
that
kids
is
here.
that is
But
my point though, is that if you're
yeah,
an adult and your only console is a Wii U, and you're sticking by that decision, then then I can't help but just call fanboyism on you
Yeah, right.
because I mean I'm of the generation. I grew up with Resident Evil, Metal Gear, Halo, uh, and Grand Theft Auto, and none of that. There's not even a shadow of that is
Yeah.
on Nintendo's current console. So my generation is kind of just stuck with PlayStation 4 and Xbox One.
Yeah, and we're reliving the Nintendo games on the or the Xbox One right now.
Yeah.
So who do you think won E3 out of all the shows?
Well, I mean, if there has to be a winner, I would definitely say Microsoft. Really, just they touched all the bases. They touched on new hardware. They touched on old hardware. They touched on their current stuff. They touched on every genre pretty much. Forza for racing, Halo for shooting, retro stuff, RPGs, and Fallout 4, and
Yeah, I actually something you posted on the forums actually did catch my eye, and when you said how the Fatboy Slim music was used in the trailer for the Rare Replay
oh
video like
yeah,
that, I don't even think I associate that, but once you said it, it automatically clicked in my head. Like, yeah, there's a retro song, and it's going with a retro video. Like they, as a presentation, they did a fantastic
it
job.
really put me into that N64. That song was popular when the N64 was probably at its prime, or just coming
Mm,
out of its prime, and
yeah.
showing us Conquer and Perfect Dark with that music backing it was just it just hits you in the face with nostalgia. It was
Hmm.
just amazing. But I mean, Sony is a very close second place,
Yeah.
with Final Fantasy and yeah,
Shenmue.
Shenmue and Last Guardian coming out. Yeah, I mean they were great. And if I had to have a third place, I would definitely give it to Bethesda with Fallout 4 and their demo and the Pit-Boy and all that
Yeah.
stuff was just really cool. Everybody else was about on the same level, and I put Nintendo at last place just because they just didn't bring it. I mean, it
Yeah.
was it was just like an update. It was just a little series of announcements and
Yeah, the crazy thing about E3 this year is any one of the announcements, the big announcements on their own could have been just break the internet stuff, you know?
yeah.
The PlayStation 3 stuff, or sorry, PlayStation 4 stuff, Final Fantasy 7, fans have been crying out for that
Literally
forever.
crying.
Um, yeah, and it's strange that I still feel that the Xbox, for I think it's just a personal thing, and it's to me Xbox did a better job. And I think it was just nice to see Xbox do something right for a change. Microsoft.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a big element is that we've kind of any good news is feels like great news,
mm,
and I know that that's definitely a huge argument there with between the Sony and Microsoft.
yeah, to say that Microsoft won isn't really. We don't want to take anything away from Sony because their
Yeah,
announcements were really
yeah.
big.
Sony was just more game focused. I feel like Microsoft touched on everything that they were about.
I mean, I thought Shenmue was dead, and specifically remember the creator of Final Fantasy saying that he would never do it and that it would be too much of an effort and all sorts of stuff. So I honestly didn't think either of those games would ever be made again. So I mean, that is a really big announcement.
Yeah. Coming into this E3, I didn't know what to expect. I was hopeful as I usually am, and I was as usual. I was prepared to leave yet another year, let down. And I was, yeah. This was easily one of the best E3s in a very long time.
Well, look, I think I'm going to leave it there, and hopefully we get to do this again next E3, and hopefully next E3 we get Half-Life 3, a remake of Resident Evil 2, and new Perfect Dark, new Time Splitters.
Yeah, we can only hope.
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling a lot more optimistic after this E3.
Anything's possible now.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, I look forward to seeing what other content you put up on GoldenEdge Gaming, and thanks for coming on the show.
Well, no problem. Thanks for having me.